Sripad Ramanujacharya by uh, by his Guru Maharaj to him. So Ramanujacharya actually accepted instructions from different exalted personalities, and Sripad Shailipurna was one of those that extensively instructed Ramanujacharya, especially on the intricacies of Ramayana. And this discussion is based essentially on those instructions. So I'll say the Mangalacharan prayers and then give a little bit of recap on what we spoke about last week and complete the discussion today. And of course, we'll have any discussion on the topics. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मायं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं साग्ररघुनाथं वतं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् साग्रललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगे राधे वृंदवनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभयश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दं माधवम्। So last week we had spoken about the category of lessons that Sripad Shailipurna extracts from Ramayana to present to Sripad Shankaracharya, who, as you know, is himself an extremely exalted personality. He is the prominent acharya in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, one of the earliest acharyas to start refuting the monistic philosophy of Sripad Shankaracharya, and is considered to himself to be an incarnation of Lord Lakshman. So exalted personality, but again in the mood of to set example, he is himself taking instructions. So the instructions were in three categories. That the first he was the first point that he made was that accept that the personality of Godhead is Lord Ram. So that was the first instruction that forms the basis of all other instructions. Then he starts talking about the process of attaining the mercy of the Lord, which he says is surrender. And in order to illustrate that, he speaks about various pastimes in Ramayana. So we had spoken about uh, uh, the position of Lakshman with respect to Lord Ram, that how in order to serve Ram, he uh, he because Lord Ram and Lord Lakshman were married on the same day at the same time. Lord Ram was married to Sita Devi, Lakshman was married to her younger sister Urmila. So when Lord Ram was going to the jungle, Sita Devi, she made a case and Lord Ram agreed. But when Lakshman said, I would like to go with you, Lord Ram said, but you're married. What will Urmila say? And Lakshman says, don't worry, let me talk to her. If she says no, I will stay back. And if she says okay, then I will go. And when he went, and then without hesitation, Urmila said that the right thing for you to do is to go and serve Ram and Sita. And she herself not even once made this comment that I would like to go with you, because she understood that her going would interfere with her husband's service to Lord Ram. So we get a glimpse of how the devotees think, that service does not always have to be in association. Service is also equally potent in separation. So Urmila Devi, by giving up her association with her husband, with Lord Ram, rendered service. The same thing with Lakshman's mother. So when he went to Sumitra, then again Sumitra said that you have been made for the purpose of serving Ram. So my instruction to you is to make sure that nothing comes in your ability to serve the Lord. So after talking about Lakshman, we are beginning to speak about Bharat. Now Bharat is probably one of the most misunderstood personalities in Ramayana. Not by the readers of Ramayana, but by the personalities within Ramayana. Because the obvious benefactor of Lord Ram being sent to the jungle was Bharat. That he became the emperor. And when Kekai asked for 14 years, then the understanding was that 14 years is really just symbolic. That in 14 years, Bharat would consolidate his hold on the kingdom. He would make sure that all the loyalists were there, and his grasp on the kingdom would be absolute. So essentially, it was seen as a whole conspiracy designed to get Bharat to the royal throne. Bharat himself, when this whole incident happened, was not in Ayodhya. He had gone to Kekai Desh, and some of the commentators, they mentioned that Kekai Desh is somewhere in Eurasia. So it's somewhere where in the border of Europe and Asia. It's called Kekai because there were abundance of peacocks over there, and because the peacocks have this voice kai kai, so it was called Kekai. And when he heard about this, he rushed back, and when he came back, then his own guru, sage Vasisht, he greets Bharat as Maharaj Bharat. He says, "Welcome, my dear Maharaj." And Bharat, he immediately chastises his own guru. He says that you are a thief. Now, for somebody of the stature of Vasisht being called a thief, it's a slippery slope, because Vasisht is a Brahma Rishi. If he curses you, then you're done for. And he's the guru. And the Raghuvanshis were very famous for being deferential to Brahmins and Gurus. But when Bharat spoke like that, calling his own Guru and Brahman and personality like Vasisht that you are a thief, then Vasisht was shocked. And he said, "Why are you calling me a thief?" And Bharat said, "Because you are stealing from me that one thing that is most dear to me." So she said, "What is it that I am stealing from you?" So Bharat says, "By calling me Maharaj, you are stealing from me my service to Lord Ram." So Vasisht was of course testing Bharat, and when Bharat said this, then Vasisht was very happy. And of course Bharat immediately, he fell at his feet and apologized for the words. So it indicated the churning of his emotions. That when people are very much under the influence of strong emotional currents, they can do things that they would never do normally. So Bharat calling his guru a thief is an example of that. And this is what assured Vasishtha that Bharat is genuinely unhappy about the turn of events. We see a similar incident happening when Lord Ram was actually leaving Ayodhya for the forest. Then Jabali Rishi came to him and he said that you don't have to leave. And because Jabali Rishi again is an exalted sage, so Ram says that you're a Brahman and you know that this is an order by my father. How can I refute that? And then Jabali Rishi says, he starts quoting the philosophy of Charvak Rishi. Charvak Rishi philosophy is that the purpose of life is to drink ghee and enjoy. So it's a hedonistic philosophy, but based on piety. He does not recommend doing impious activities, but essentially the philosophy is that the prime motivation is to enjoy piously. Everything else comes secondary to that. So Jabali started quoting Charvak Niti, saying that your father promised Kekai, you did not promise. You are not bound by the promise of your father. But what you are bound is the promise that you gave to your wife, that you would take care of her. You bought her from her father's house. She came with you with the expectation that she would live as a queen. You're taking her to a forest where there are animals and thorns and harsh conditions. And Lord Ram was actually, this is uncharacteristic of Lord Ram, but Lord Ram was very angry at Jabali Rishi, saying that there must be something wrong in our rule that people like you have set foot in our country. So an indirect way of saying that people like you are not welcome in our country. And then he talks philosophically also, or why the Charvak Rishi's philosophy is incorrect. And of course, Jabir Rishi was happy about it, that he was chastised by Lord Ram, because for the sake of posterity, he wanted to make this point that Lord Ram, he did not leave under emotional duress. He did not leave because he was forced to. But when Lord Ram spoke philosophically, it indicated that he had a clear conception of right and wrong. Now, the word Bharat means, so Bhar means weight. Bharat means who carries a lot of weight. So Bharat had to carry this weight of criticism practically his entire life. He was criticized by Lakshman, he was criticized by Kaushalya, he was criticized by the residents of Ayodhya. But what comes across is that in all this opposition, in all this misunderstanding, Bharat remains steadfast. So we see that Bharat makes one attempt to get Lord Ram back. So he takes the Ayodhya Vasis, the sages, his mothers, and he heads towards where. So Lord Ram has still not crossed over the river, so he heads over there. And when when Lakshman sees Bharat coming, and there is a cloud of dust that is rising, like he's coming with an army. And Bharat actually did carry his army, but also the citizens and everybody else. He became alarmed. So one question to you is that why didn't Bharat go alone? Why did Bharat go accompanied by all? Wouldn't it have been easier for him to go alone, speak confidentially with Lord Ram, explain the misunderstanding and get him back? But instead, he seemed to have made a whole hoopla out of it. That he organized a whole procession to go and get Ram back. Why do you think he did that?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Maybe Bharat Ji thought that because he will have his mom and everybody together and also the residents of Ayodhya, then there are more reasons for Sri Ram to come back. Maybe.
Sounds plausible. Thank you, Varsha. Ravi Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, like Mataji is saying, when we are going for convincing someone, it is easy if more and more people request, because it is, more people can put different perspectives why Ram should come back, and everybody have their views, and also it will be more of course Lord Ram knows everything, but still, Lord Ram also sees how many people wants him to come back. So it's not a secret operation that it is easy always to convince, even for any matter, for that sake.
Very good. Thank you. Rajneesh Prabhu?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I think in Bharat's mind, Lord Ram was actually the king. In fact, before this whole episode of Kekai and all, everybody knew in the Praja also and Bharat also that Lord Ram is going to be coronated, as the king, and everybody was almost celebrating. So I think in his mind, he's still thinking that I am his praja and he is my lord, he is my king, and everybody else is also feeling the same way. So all of us should go and get our king back.
Very nice. Thank you, Rajneesh Prabhu. Akshay Prabhu?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Out of humility, taking a humble position, not thinking that he by himself alone can, do anything to sway Prabhu Ram's decision, but relying on the other devotees to call him.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Akshay Prabhu. Pyali or Somu?
So Prabhu, when you go to see an important person, typically lots of people go with an entourage to make whatever their case stronger or to seek blessings. So even Bharat in this case, he was going to see an important person who was his well-respected brother and the king in his mind. So he took an entourage with him. That's my feeling.
Very good. So all points are actually accurate, and they talk about the potency of Sangha. So what the acharyas explain, which essentially I'm paraphrasing the points that were made, is that when we start our journey to win back the Lord, so we were in the association of the Lord, and because of whatever reasons we lost that association, then the potency is in Vaishnava Sangha. Satsang is the most powerful way for us to regain the association of the Lord. Bharat was aware of this, and all the points that are made are basically talking about the potency of satsang. That meeting an important person, being encouraged by like-minded people, associating with those who have similar convictions. So all those points were made. The symbolism here is applies to aspiring devotees seeking shelter of Sangha. Right? So Bharat was Ram's brother. So if you look at it from that perspective, that Bharat's brother has gone. So this is a family matter now. One brother has gone, another brother went with the brother, two brothers have gone, and the remaining brother are now going to get him back. Completely a family matter between brothers. But Bharat makes it a country matter. He doesn't go alone. He goes with Ayodhya Vasis, goes with ministers, mothers, etc. Because he realizes that it is actually the potency of Sangha that can qualify one to regain the mercy of the Lord. Can anyone give me one example where we see this similar thought process going on?
You are asking in Ramayana Prabhuji or in general?
Anywhere. Bhagavatam. Actually, it's in Bhagavatam. The one that I'm thinking about is in Bhagavatam. But there are actually many more. Okay. So
the whole. Sorry, Prabhuji.
no, please do. Go ahead.
I was thinking the whole narration of Bhagavatam, where everybody congregated at one place and discussion. Because to deliver Parikshit Maharaj, only Sukadeva Goswami is sufficient. He can simply give the instructions and Parikshit Maharaj would be delivered. But the whole atmosphere is created for Parikshit Maharaj to win back the Lord.
Yes, yes, that's good. I didn't think about it, but that is good. We also have the incident, the pastime of when Bhumi Devi goes to Brahma and says that I'm overrun by sinful people, then Brahma doesn't say to Bhumi Devi, you go to Lord Vishnu. He also doesn't say that you and me will go to Lord Vishnu. But the whole entourage of the Devas, all the Devas along with Bhumi Devi, along with Brahma, they go and then they stand on the banks of the Shir Sagar and pray to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu might say that, why all of you come here? Only Bhumi Devi has a problem. You all are coming. But he also enjoys. That's why Vaishnava Sangha is potent, because the Lord enjoys Vaishnava Sangha. So back to Ramayana. So when Bharat was coming, then Lakshman sees this cloud of dust and he gets up on the tree and he sees Bharat's coming, and Lakshman he comes down and he says that we have to go quickly because Bharat is coming to attack us. That he is not satisfied with you going to the jungle, he wants to kill you. And Lord Ram, he pacifies Lakshman. He says that let's wait, let's see what Bharat wants. So when Bharat comes in front of Lord Ram and falls at his feet, then Lord Ram immediately lifts him up and embraces him. And he looks at Lakshman and says that this is my real brother, pointing to Bharat. Not pointing to, but the fact that he was embracing Bharat. So Shaili Purna says that that's the nature of the Lord, that he does not tolerate offenses against his devotee, no matter how exalted the person is. So Lakshman, he has given up everything to be with Ram. Given up his wife, his kingdom. The difference between Ram and Lakshman is that Ram is going because he was ordered by Dashrath. Lakshman has no compulsion. He is going on his own volition. But even then, Lord Ram does not appreciate the offense by Lakshman against Bharat. So he looks at Lakshman and says, this is my real brother. This is an indirect form of chastisement to Lakshman, that anybody who offends a devotee cannot be in a relationship with me. And it is said that because of this offense by Lakshman against Bharat, he had to later on suffer the accusations by Sita Devi. So we know that when Lord Ram went hunting for the golden deer in the form of Marich, and when he kills the deer, then Marich, in the voice of Lord Ram, he says, Lakshman, Sita, protect me. And Sita Devi, she becomes agitated and she tells Lakshman that your brother is in danger, you go and see what's going on. And Lakshman says that he's asked me to stay here to guard you, so I'm not going anywhere. And then Sita Devi gets even more agitated, and then she starts accusing Lakshman. She says that you have designs on me. That's why you're staying here, hoping that your brother is dead, so that then you can enjoy with me. So when Lakshman hears this, then he leaves and goes, and then of course Sita Devi is kidnapped by Ravan. So Acharyas say that Lakshman had to suffer this because of his offense against Bharat. And because Sita Devi offended Lakshman, she had to suffer the the statement that Lord Ram makes when Sita Devi comes, that Lord Ram looks at Sita Devi and says that now you're free to go wherever you want, and then she goes through Agni Pariksha. So she has to prove her chastity once again to her husband. So the underlying lesson is that one should not think that my devotional service is going to shelter me from offenses. When personalities of the stature of Lakshman, who is Vishnu Tattva, Sita Devi, who is Lakshmi Devi herself, when even they get contaminated and suffer the reactions from Vaishnava Prad, then what to speak of much lesser devotees like, practicing devotees like us. So we have to be very, very careful. In Lakshman's case, the situation was extenuating. Circumstantially, what he was saying was not out of the way. He wasn't really speaking out of complete malice. He was thinking like a Kshatriya. That the nature of a Kshatriya king is that unless they eradicate their enemy, they won't rest. So he said, Bharat will not rest until you're going to the forest is not enough for him. But then, higher than these considerations are considerations of how to deal with Vaishnavas. So we know that Bharat is unable to convince Ram. So he requests for the Paduka of Lord Ram. So why did he ask for the Paduka of Lord Ram? So Shailapunya gives several reasons. He says that Bharat is thinking that the entire creation is held up by Lord Ram. And Piyali, did you get the answer to your question? Actually, I didn't see. I'm just seeing the chat now.
Muted. Prabhu, I wanted to know, why did even Lakshman doubt his older brother Bharat? I mean, I know that he was extremely devoted to Lord Ram, but was there any particular reason that he had doubts about his older brother Bharat's intentions?
He had, for the same reason that Vasishtha doubted Bharat, for the same reason Ayodhya Avasis doubted Bharat, that he was coming from the supposition that this whole thing was orchestrated by Bharat. That he did the whole thing, put it into motion, left to distance himself while the things played out, and then when everything was done, then he comes back. So there was so much of hatred against Bharat that even Dashrath actually forbade Bharat from doing his last rites. So when Dashrath knew that he was dying, he gave this instruction that after I die, make sure that Bharat does not touch my body or do my last rites. So there was this very strong, and Lord Ram, being of course Lord Ram, he was probably the only one who was constantly taking. So all these personalities are Vishnus, they are omniscient, but at least in the past time, Lord Ram was the only one who was working on the platform that regardless of what Bharat did, even if he orchestrated all this to get the kingdom, but he is still our loved one. So Lord Ram doesn't say that I know that Bharat did not orchestrate it, right? That would kind of break his character mold. He's playing the role of a king. So he's not acting omniscient, right? But the point that he makes is that even if you consider Bharat to be the master behind all this, he is still our brother. We still have to deal with him with love and affection. Okay, so when Bharat is considering that Lord Ram has refused to come back, he asks for the Padukas of Lord Ram, and in his mind he is saying that the Lord holds the entire creation and the Paduka holds the Lord. So if I cannot have the Lord, let me have somebody that is as powerful, if not more than the Lord. So why is the Paduka more powerful than the Lord? So think of it this way, that Bharat is, to some extent, he is thinking in terms of from a more mechanical perspective, that the Lord bears the whole entire world, and the Paduka bears the Lord. So let me take the Paduka, because the Paduka is actually more powerful than the Lord. But why is the Paduka actually considered to be more powerful than the Lord?
Prabhuji, correct me if my understanding is wrong, but it is a perspective I'm trying to share. It actually, personally experienced also, is like, when we bring my father's slippers or something, the mood is completely different. Rather than when I'm talking next to him, many times I take the equal position in putting my things. But it is pretty much like I am putting my head below the feet. So, meaning what the Lord could not do on bringing our actual position, the Padukas did. The service to Lord's lotus feet or his Padukas actually bring us to the position of our constitutional position. So that way it is like devotee doing the purpose.
Okay. Very nice realization. Thank you, Prabhu. Any other thoughts?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Danatma. I heard a lecture, Prabhu. I'm just trying to correlate the similar thought here. That Paduka was a servant of the Lord. Of course, there are many servants of the Lord, everyone. But Paduka is such a servant who never disobeyed the Lord. So that's the mood of the Paduka, and that's what the mood Bharat want to get, never to disobey the Lord's order or instruction. So that's probably the representative of the Paduka being as a servant of the Lord, the most servient servant of the Lord.
Nice. That's nice. And yes, so I think these points are valid. That the Paduka being in direct contact with the lotus feet of the Lord. So what is the lotus feet of the Lord famous for? The lotus feet of the Lord is famous for mercy. Right? So many prayers, devotees say we aspire to attain your lotus feet and maybe serve your lotus feet, because the lotus feet of the Lord is the embodiment of His mercy. The Padukas are in constant contact with the Lord's lotus feet. So the Paduka is demonstrating two qualities. One is the Palan Shakti, that it is bearing the weight of one who is bearing the weight of the entire creation. But Bharat didn't just want to rule. He did not want just to have the power to rule. He didn't want to be a king who rules by discipline or by rigor. So the Paduka, in addition to that, is also the embodiment of the mercy of the Lord. So Bharat wanted that too. He wanted to rule as a representative of the Lord, be an efficient ruler, but he also wanted to carry forth the mercy of the Lord. So the Acharyas say that when Lord Ram and Bharat are having this conversation, the Paduka is observing the conversation. So as we know that everything is Chinmaya, is sentient, so is the personality of the Paduka. So the Paduka is observing this conversation, and then the Paduka is thinking that when Bharat is imploring Ram to return to Ayodhya, then he is speaking from the heart. When Ram is saying that I cannot return to Ayodhya, he is speaking with his intelligence. Because Ram was talking about duty. That it's my duty to follow the instructions of my father, so I cannot come. And Bharat was saying that everybody is waiting for you, everybody is going to be miserable without you. So he was speaking from a heart, from an emotional perspective. So Paduka looks at both of them and thinks that why should I serve one who is only talking about duty? I would rather serve one who is speaking from the heart. Better for me to serve Bharat. So even the Paduka, out of its own inspiration, decided to go with Bharat. So the devotees of the Lord are more compassionate than the Lord himself. Ram refused to go with Bharat, but the Paduka went with Bharat. For Paduka, it meant that the personality of Paduka would no longer serve the Lord. But out of compassion, the Paduka understood that Bharat is asking for me because of these reasons. And it appreciated the position of Bharat. So similar point that we were discussing last time, that when devotees approach the Lord through his internal energy, they get more mercy. They go to the Lord directly, and the Lord looks at them and says, okay, chanting good rounds, following principles, yes, no, yes, no. But when you go through Srimati Radharani, she says, don't worry about it. He's a sincere devotee, he's chanting, he's trying to chant. Don't worry about whether he's strictly following Ekadashis, don't worry about if he's chanting good rounds or he is following all the principles. Just know that out of the so many other places that this jiva could have gone, he has come to us. And that itself is enough. So that's why we approach Krishna through Srimati Radharani. When we chant Hare Krishna, Hare is Radharani. And then Krishna comes. So we are going to Krishna through his mercy potency. So when Bharat took the Paduka back, then when Bharat went back to Ayodhya, as you may have known, that he did not live in the palace. So he took this vow that while Lord Ram is out in the jungle, I will also live out in the jungle. But he had to rule the kingdom, so he was living outside the city but in a in a very austere situation. And he would take the paduka, when he would go for his bath, he would take the paduka and do abhishek of the paduka. So then it is said that the dust of the, because the paduka carried the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord, and when Bharat would do abhishek of the paduka in the Sarayu river, the water would also get the dust of the Lord's lotus feet, and when the Sarayu river went into the ocean, the Lord's dust also went into the ocean. So when the Lord was waiting for the ocean to give him ways to go to Lanka, so we know he fasted for 3 days sitting on the banks, and when the ocean did not do anything, then the Lord became angry. And just by his glance, he was burning up the ocean. And the Acharyas say that then the Lord noticed that the mercy of Bharat was also present in the ocean. So he held back his anger. So we never know where the mercy of a devotee will manifest. There, I was reading this book distribution pastime where I'm forgetting the names of the devotee, but I'm actually lagging out on the country. But somebody got a Bhagavad Gita and basically was not interested, so gave it to a friend. The friend was not interested, but I think he was Russian. So he was not interested but didn't want to throw the book away, so he kept it in his library. And his son, he grew up, and kids sometimes getting bored, they would read different books. So his son would go to his library and once in a while read the book, and then read it some more, and then he actually became very, very attached to the book. So I know the name of the son is Srinivas Prabhu, and he's a very prominent preacher now. Unfortunately, I've forgotten the name of the country, if it is Russia or some other country in that Central Asia bloc. But the point is this, that how the mercy traveled from one person to another, from another person to another person, and then it manifested there. The Acharyas also explained the reason why the ocean did not respond to the praise of Lord Ram. That for 3 days Lord Ram was sitting and asking the ocean to make way or give him a solution to cross, and did not and the ocean did not respond. So the Acharyas say is that the nature of the relationship between the personality of the ocean and the Lord Ram is that of service. So the constitutional position of the personality of the ocean is to serve the Lord. So when the Lord was sitting and praying, then it made the personality of the ocean very uncomfortable. And more uncomfortable would have been if he had come and said that, I have listened to your prayers, I am happy by your prayers, now I will give you what you want. So from his position, it was something that was completely against his constitutional position. so he did not do anything. When Lord Ram chastised him, then he was happy. This is my position. That my Lord will demand from me and I will serve him. So what does the ocean do? Immediately falls at the feet of Lord Ram, begs for forgiveness and says that you can do anything you want, but this is what I would suggest. Because then he was back in his constitutional position. That my Lord is asking me to do something, ordering me, chastising me. My position is to fall at his feet, beg his forgiveness, and do what he wants. So, back to the personality of Bharat. Bharat was, even though he was living a very austere life, he was one of the most hated personalities in Ayodhya. So much so that when people would see him, they would throw stones at him or spit on him. Which is why he would live in isolation. He would take bath at very, very early in the morning because of the fact that if he went and other people were there, then they would chastise him verbally or physically. But he held hard onto his position because Lord Ram had asked him. In the 14 years that Lord Bharat ruled Ayodhya, the treasury of Ayodhya, it increased 9 times, which shows how efficient Bharat was in ruling, even without the direct support and affection of his kingdom. So it talks about the prowess of devotees, that they may be misunderstood, mistreated, but as long as they are carrying on the instructions of the Guru or the Lord, success is inevitable. The Acharyas also, and this is more in the line of humor, that Bharat had this policy that when somebody came to him with income, whether it is from tax or any kind of revenue, he would accept it. When somebody came to him saying that I need an expense, he would refer the person to the Paduka, that go and ask the Paduka for money. And of course the Paduka never gave any money. So his incomes kept going up, his expense remained static. Another humor in Ramayana, that when the actual battle was going on between Lord Ram and Ravan, so as we know that Lord Ram's army was monkeys, and they were essentially just fighting without any real weapons. So one monkey was boasting that there was this big Rakshas that came that I was fighting with, and I first cut off his one hand. And he said, wow, that's good. What did you do after that? I cut off his other hand. He said, yes. And then what did he do? I cut off his one leg. Then I cut off his other leg. So then somebody said that, why are you cutting off his hands and legs? Why didn't you just cut off his head? And he said, I couldn't cut off his head because somebody had already cut off his head. So, so we see this kind of humor in Ramayana also. So 3 points have been made so far, that Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have seen surrender that has been manifested by different personalities, different pastimes, and also seen that the fruit of surrender is service. The fruit of surrender is not enjoyment. Like Bharat is the embodiment of that. That his surrender manifested as service in very difficult situation. Lakshman's surrender manifested in service in different kind of situation. Same thing with Sita Devi. So one should not surrender with the expectation that now that I have surrendered to the Lord, now I should get a palace to live in and a good car and everything should be copacetic. The fruit of surrender is service. Whether it is in good circumstances or bad circumstances, that is immaterial, but surrender means service. When you're getting service, you can understand that surrender in you is increasing. And the more you surrender, proportionately, the more service you get. Fourth point that is made by Shalipurna is that surrender takes place through devotees. So surrender is not really a direct relationship between the jiva and the Lord. Surrender is executed through the agency of the associates and the devotees of the Lord. So in Ravan's kutumb, Ravan's family, we see that Ravan was lusty after Sita Devi. Supernakha was lusty after Lord Ram. So whole family is one of lust. But when you look at Lord Ram's family, everyone is trying to serve the other person. Lakshman is trying to serve Ram, Bharat is trying to serve Lakshman, Urmila is serving, Bharat is serving Ram, Urmila is serving Lakshman. So everybody is trying to serve either directly or indirectly Ram. The whole family is that of service. That's the difference between divine and demoniac. Lest means that let me do what is best for my senses. Service means that let me do what is best for somebody else. That is the difference between divine and demoniac. Continuing the point of humor in Ramayana, it is said that Sita Devi one day was teasing Lord Ram that wherever we go in this jungle, you carry this big bow and arrow with you. But do you even know how to use it? Never seen you actually use it, because Lakshman was the one who was doing everything that was needed. So she said, why are you carrying on this big bow and arrow? Do you even know how to use it? So Lord Ram smiled and didn't say anything. And then after some time, the Supernakha incident happened, and Supernakha went and complained to Khar and Dushan, and Khar and Dushan came with 14,000 soldiers to attack. And then Lakshman says that to Ram that you sit here, let me take care of them and come. And Ram says, no, you sit here, I will take care of them. And Lakshman says, why are you unnecessarily exerting yourself? You know very well I can take care of them. So Ram says, no, this is a family situation. So Lakshman understands. So he sits over there, and then we know that Lord Ram, all by himself, in a matter of, and different Ramayana have slightly different interpretations. One Ramayana says in a matter of an hour, he annihilates the entire army, including Khardushan. Another version says that with a single arrow, he annihilates the entire army. But one way or other, he annihilates the army. And then he comes back carrying his bow and arrow to Sita Devi. And Sita Devi looks at Ram and said that I'm so happy that my father Janak did not see you carrying this bow and arrow and using it the way you are using it. So Lord Ram says, why? I thought you would be happy that your father would see me in combat. She says, no. If he had seen you like this, then he would have married all my sisters to you. So I would have to compete with them. So then Lord Ram was smiling. So back to the point of surrender takes place through devotees. In Kishkinda Kand, we see that. How are we doing with time? Okay. So yeah, we are almost towards the end. So I'll finish this and then we'll chant one round. So in Kishkinda Kand, we have the situation that Sita Devi has been kidnapped by Ravan, and Lord Ram and Lakshman are searching for her, so they reach Kishkinda. And in Kishkinda there is the rule by Vali, and he has exiled his brother Sugriv. So Sugriv is looking to make an alliance to basically overthrow Vali. So Hanuman kind of plays the mediator and he gets Sugriv over. So when Sugriv comes to meet Ram, then Lakshman, he introduces Lord Ram to Sugriv. He says that personality unto whom the entire creation takes shelter now takes shelter of you. Because that's what Lord Ram says, you please help me find my wife. So the Acharyas say that Sugriva, the word Sugriva literally means Su means beautiful, Griva means throat. And contextually Sugriva means that which comes, beautiful emanation from the throat, which is essentially sound. So Acharyas say that the Lord is all powerful, but still in order to reach to his devotees, he takes shelter of the form of sound. So what is the form of sound? The sound form of the holy name. The chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the Sankirtan. Hanuman was a close associate of Sugriva. And Hanuman is the embodiment of Vayu. And what does Vayu do? It carries sound. So Lord Ram, he took help from Sugriv and Hanuman. Together they represent the spreading of the form of the Lord as sound. So we say that more powerful than the Lord is the name of the Lord. So here we see that actually happening, that one takes shelter of something that or somebody that is more powerful. The Lord takes shelter of Sugriv and Hanuman, indicating that they are more powerful. The Lord takes shelter of the form of the sound form of his incarnation in the sound form and the spreading of the sound form through the agency of Sankirtan. The Acharyas say that the Vanar Sena represents Vaishnav Sena. So essentially, the Lord, with the help of his holy name being spread by the Vaishnavas, rescues Sita Devi. So Sita Devi represents the Jiva, the conditioned Jiva. Sita Devi has been arrested by Ravan. What does Ravan represent? Lust. So when the Jiva is forcibly conditioned by lust, then the personality of Godhead, through the agency of his holy name and the Vaishnavas, rescues the conditioned soul. When Hanuman went to give the ring to Sita Devi, he also offered that you come with me. I will take you back to Lord Ram. And Sita Devi refuses. And she says, I will wait here until my Lord comes and rescues me. When Hanuman went back to Lord Ram and glorified Sita Devi in this way, then Lord Ram, he sends his army. So Hanuman represents Guru. The reaching out of Hanuman to Sita Devi across so many obstacles is the reaching out of the Guru to the conditioned soul across so many obstacles. And when the Guru ascertains that the Jiva is exclusively waiting for the mercy of the Lord, the Guru goes to the Lord and says, this person is only waiting for your mercy. Then the Lord says, now I will send my Vaishnav. So the Lord Ram personally comes along with the Vanar Sena. So for such a Jiva, the Lord personally comes in the form of the name along with the Vaishnavas, annihilates all the forms of lust and anger and material desires that are holding the Jiva back, and gets the Jiva back. One of the other pastimes is, I think we discussed it last time, of Sugriv being garlanded by Lakshman. When there was the battle between Sugriva and Vali, because Lord Rama said, you fight and I will help you.
Can you let me in?
So when there was a battle between Sugriv and Vali, then Lord Ram doesn't do anything. He lets Sugriv get beaten up, and then Sugriv complains, and then Lord Ram says that you two look the same, I couldn't do anything. Then Lakshman, he places a garland around Sugriv. So Lakshman is the Adi Guru, and when the Jiva gets the mercy of the Guru, so the garland is considered to be the mercy, the Guru marks the Jiva, then the Lord says, now I recognize you. Now I will do whatever is needed for you to come back to me. So 5 lessons from the Ramayana as per Shailipurna. 1. Krishna is the personality of Godhead, or Lord Ram is the personality of Godhead. 2. That the Jiva must align with the tolerance of Bharat, the service of Lakshman, and the humility of Shatrughan. So these two together are Sambandhanya. Third lesson is that the process of surrender happens through bhakti, that is Abhiday. Fourth is that the fruit of surrender is service, that is Prayojan. And the fifth lesson is that how to deal with the obstacles that come in the course of service. That is embodied by the action of the residents of Lanka, headed by Raman. So in this context, it is mentioned that Vibhishan was so much taken in by love and affection for Lord Ram that in his house, all over the walls, he had written Ram, and there was constant chanting of Ram and Ram going on. So once Raman came to his house, and he got very angry He was saying that you're my brother, you're living in the kingdom under my protection, and you're chanting Ram, and there is all Ram written all over your house. And Vibhishan said, no, it's not what you think, different. He said, what do you mean different? This is Ram, I can read it. He said, no, it's different. It's actually, the Ra is for Ravan and the Ma is for Mandodari. So because I'm so much taken in by the two of you, so instead of saying Ravan Mandodari, which is long, I took the first letter of both their names and I'm saying Ram. So Ram said, oh, that's very good. He says, from now onwards, everybody in Lanka will chant Ram. So one of the qualities of the devotees is that they are daksha. Daksha means they are expert. That in order to facilitate the service of the Lord, they are ready to improvise. So Vibhishan, we don't have time to do that, but there is a fair amount of exposition on the nature of surrender that is demonstrated by Vibhishan. So different personalities are surrendering to the Lord in different ways. And Vibhishan's surrender is also explained in details, which we don't have the time to do now. But we'll end the discussion over here. Once again, wanted to talk about the 5 lessons as per Shailipurna to Ramanacharya. Krishna is the personality of Godhead, Lord Ram is the personality of Godhead, and the jiva, in order to begin the process, they must align in terms of tolerance, service, humility, in terms of their relationship with the Lord. And this is executed through the process of bhakti. The success of the process manifests in terms of service, and the obstacles that come to this as part of this service are something that the devotees have to be very careful about and avoid, especially the obstacle of Vaishnava Prat. Ramayana is also special because it embodies women in a very decisive position. When Valmiki was writing Ramayana, then he was actually earlier on considering titling it as Sita Charitra, because he actually considered the central character in Ramayana to be Sita Devi. Later on he calls it Ramayana. And we see that the events in the Ramayana are basically shepherded by women. From Manthara to Kaikai to Supnakha to Sita Devi, they play pivotal roles in the flow of the pastimes in Ramayana. Okay, I'll pause over here, see if you have any discussion.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. The discussion is always, your class is always enlivening. It gives us the hope. And one point that very much struck to me is like the surrender. Recently, when I was having an internal conversation, like one of our relatives saying somehow fully surrendered to the God. I was saying, telling is easy, but it's not happening. Then in today's class, it gave a clear answer is that, surrendering to the instructions of Guru, like just following the instructions, whatever is told by Guru, that alone is the surrender, at least even in the bhava level, even if we don't carry, still that following alone considered as a surrender, not that really the feeling that. So the constant thinking, feeling, all those things, even if we don't carry, but still it is considered surrender. So that kind of giving an inspiration. And so many points are there, but one point that very much stuck to me is that because of the recent discussion, and I was also thinking about surrender. So, and one question also I have, Prabhuji. Lord Ram performed human-like pastimes, and he never presented himself. No, I won't say never, but most of the times he has not presented himself as the Supreme Lord. And here we are seeing everybody is approaching Lord with the mood as if they are aware that Ram is the Supreme Lord, and so they are serving. Is that would be the case, Prabhuji, or they are just like serving Lord is whether we know or do not know, but doesn't matter, because gopis also served Krishna, but they most of the times do not remember him, the Lord. So his Ramayana shows the descriptions which explicitly saying that devotee, Hanuman, when serving Ram, saying that you are the Supreme Lord. Because you gave one example that, like Lakshman is saying to Sugriv, saying that the personality on whom the entire universe takes shelter. This statement only he can make when he very much remembers he is the Supreme Lord. So these kind of explanations are more, not explanations, but people outspoken speaking like that. Is that more evident in Ramayana, Prabhuji? Or they perform just like pastimes between humans?
More of the latter, I think. In Krishna Lila, Krishna never hid his supremacy. Right? He was always potent way beyond any human-like possibilities. Not so much in the case of Lord Ram. Right? That's why Lord Ram presents himself as somebody that can be emulated, that can be followed. We do see these glimpses, and I was hearing a lecture where this point is made that all these pastimes are performed under the curtain of Yogamaya. Once in a while, the curtain gets pulled back, briefly, for various reasons, and then it gets closed again. Yashodamai sees, Krishna shows his universal form to Yashodamai for whatever reason. The curtain is pulled back, and then it's back again. Same thing we see in Ramayana when Vishwamitra comes to ask for Lord Ram to be sent, and Dashrath is frantic. How can I send my 12-year son? And Vishwamitra says, you don't have to be worried about Lord Ram. Right? He says that this personality, he worries about everybody else. You don't have to worry about him. So the curtain is pulled back briefly, and then it closes again after that. Why it happens when, I'm sure there are some further realizations that are hidden into it. That why does the Lord choose? They call this the fourth wall. When you're doing theatre, it's called the fourth wall. That the fourth wall is the one with the audience. So when you're doing the theatre, then it's an impenetrable wall. Everybody's interacting with one another. They're oblivious. They're completely ignoring that there is audience. And that's the whole beauty of a play. You're doing the play, you're completely ignoring the audience. But then sometimes in some plays you'll see that a person will face the audience and speak. For effect, for humor, for whatever, they'll speak. And then the play continues after that. Something like that happens, that the Yogamaya's curtain is there. Sometimes it gets pulled back, but then it gets back.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you for the explanation, Prabhuji. The last example also is very evident. Sometimes we see that in dramas specifically.
Yeah.
And thanks to the acharyas who give these realizations for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Akshay Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much for doing this Ramayana series. There's so much of depth to even simple acts and pastimes. It's amazing. So my question was about offenses, and you mentioned that we have to be very careful guarding those offenses, and you also mentioned that offenses were done at this absolute platform as well, in front of and in the presence of Prabhu Ram with his eternal associates. So what is our hope? Where we are so disconnected from the absolute platform, and yet there is offense after offense that's happening. You kind of you definitely answered that when you were describing about Radharani. She is just looking at the sincerity of ours. So I just would like to hear a little bit more on that from you.
So even Radharani will not recommend somebody who does Vaishnava Aparadha. So one of the acharyas gives this explanation of aparad. So apa means against, and rad means Radharani. So aparad is that one, those activities that put one against Srimati Radharani. Specifically Vaishnava Aparadha. So other aparads, whether it is Seva Aparad or whether it is Nam Aparad, whether it is Dham Aparad. So Nectar Devotion talks about so many kinds of offenses, right? Other offenses, they get nullified by one another. That if you do Dham Aparad, then it gets nullified if you do some Seva. If you do Seva Aparad, it gets nullified if you beg forgiveness. And Vaishnava Seva, that nullifies so many aparads. Vaishnava Aparad doesn't get nullified. And even Srimati Radharani will not recommend that. So our hope is that we don't commit Vaishnava Aparad. Right? We can't say that we are fallible, so let's go about offending Vaishnavas. Right? That's a very treacherous way of thinking. Saying that because I am weak, I will steal from you, or because I am hungry, I will take away your food. That's a treacherous way of thinking. The proper way of thinking is that regardless of whether we are strong or weak, we should never offend Vaishnavas. And other aparads, yes. When we do deity worship, then we sing the prayers to begging forgiveness for offenses. Mantrinam kriyainam bhaktinam janatana yat pujitam mayade paripurnam tadastu me. So you say that you have so many weaknesses, mantrahinam, kriyainam, that you don't know the mantras properly, kriyainam, you don't know the process properly, bhaktihinam, not enough bhakti in me. Yat pujitam mayade paripurnam tadastu me. You still make it complete. By right you are asking that I have so many shortcomings, yat paripurnam tadastu. But the whole offense, begging for forgiveness from offense, Vaishnava Aparadha is not mentioned over there. Right? So even the acharyas don't say that you commit Vaishnava Aparadha and then say that, give me forgiveness for Vaishnava Aparadha. There is no forgiveness for that. So our hope is that we stay vigilant, that we are careful understanding the gravity of it. Our hope is that if we inadvertently, if we offend a Vaishnava, then we seek forgiveness from the Vaishnava, which takes away the offense. If the Vaishnava does not forgive us, then we continue to serve the Vaishnava, and then the service to the Vaishnava negates the offense. That's our hope. that knowingly or unknowingly we don't commit offenses, and if we commit, we acknowledge them and rectify them. Our hope is not starting with a declaration that we are so weak, so we are going to be committing a lot of offenses and everybody should take care of it. It's like narcissistic attitude that I am weak, everybody should take care of me. I'm going to beat up everybody, but you guys take care of me, right? So this was lack of sincerity.
Thank you so much, Guruji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Okay, so if we have no more points of discussion, then we can take out our wheel bags and chant one round of Hare Krishna. If you can all mute yourself so that we can listen to your transcendental sound of chanting. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya.